Oh, the fun just doesn't stop, does it? In the world of Newcastle United at the moment. My God, breaking news this afternoon that Newcastle's #1 striker target, the man who was set to replace Alexander Isak at Newcastle United, Red Bull Leipzig 22-year-old SESKO, is set to join Manchester United. My God, at this rate, at the state of play, I cannot see Alexander Isak going anywhere this summer window. Yes, guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you guys are somehow enjoying your day-to-day. My word, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch. Let's start off by talking about the football match we had this afternoon. Over in South Korea, Newcastle took on the K All-Stars, the South Korean All-Stars team, and lost 1-0. Let's get all of the excuses out the way. It was 1,000,000 degrees. It was a makeshift team. Loads of changes. But my word, we were bad. Really no excuse from anyone. Asula, the only available striker. I thought he missed some easy chances. Lascelles and Murphy at the back is scary to watch. I thought Miley didn't have a great game. Joe Willock picking up an injury. Eddie Howe has said that it's not serious, but my God, the team's falling apart. We don't have the players, and we're struggling to bring any signings in. We've seen it before with Newcastle. We have had terrible pre-seasons on the pitch and managed to save it when we get into the season. We've had terrible pre-seasons off the pitch as well. You know, look at the last 3 years of no signings and we've managed to pull it off. But this time, it really just does feel that little bit different. This was going to be the summer where we turned things around. We brought players in. And by all accounts, I even feel like yesterday afternoon kind of struck up a little bit of positivity that we were moving for players, that whether we wanted it or not, maybe the move for Isak out the door was a positive one so we could just move on. And then the news this afternoon really has just, landed. And watching that game today, it has just sent me straight back down to earth. The only little bit of positivity we could probably pull from this video is that Newcastle are on the brink of bringing in a new signing. He has landed on Tyneside this afternoon, and Aaron Ramsdale is on his way to the Newcastle training ground for a medical. That's right, Newcastle are set to secure their second, well, not permanent, but second signing of the summer window. Aaron Ramsdale on a 1-year loan deal from Southampton. Extremely mixed views on this one. The positives are, that I think he was very well liked at the teams he's been at. I think he will bring a good buzz to the changing room, which undoubtedly we need right now. We need a good buzz for the fans as well, But yeah, the players themselves will hopefully get a good buzz off him. I think he does bring more experience and, generally speaking, is probably a better goalie than most of the other 7 goalies we have at the football club. I think him and Nick Pope are probably touch and go of who's first team place. Is it an obvious better option than Nick Pope? I would probably say no. But with Nick Pope's continuous injury troubles, and I would say generally has been on a bit of a decline, except for probably the cup final, where I thought he was immensely good. Other than that, has been on a general decline, isn't great with his feet, basically can't dive to his bottom right because he's got a shoulder injury, is scared to come out and punch the ball because of his shoulder injury. I have to assume that if Ramsdale doesn't start the first game of the season, he will slowly but surely make his way into the starting 11. And look, it's 4 million. You can't buy a bar of chocolate in the world of football for 4 million. If we like him at the end of the season, if he comes in, proves a point, really he was Arsenal's #1 goalie. 3-4 years ago, he was probably one of the best goalies in the league. And then Arteta just didn't like him and got Rhea in, and his stock absolutely plummeted. 27, 28 years old now, so it's about the right time to really be peaking as a goalkeeper or just peaking as a footballer generally. So, benefit of the doubt there. It's something through the door. It's better than what we've got in the goalkeeping department. Is it a Trafford for a far more long-term option to hopefully be our #1 for years? No. Does it give a little bit more security in a situation where Dubravka's getting on, Nick Pope's injured, and the other 3 goalies we've got are setting up stag do's, running the coaching team, or just hated by Eddie Howe? Or the other 3, you can pick which one you think is of them. But yes, I'll back the Ramsdale at a cheap loan deal as backup. The other target we've been linked to this afternoon, really struggling with. So on top of the fact that Newcastle are set to lose out on SESKO, reports are that Newcastle have turned their attention to Muniz from Fulham. Let's rewind a second. So big talk has obviously been that SESKO and Wizza were going to be the 2 players to replace Alexander Isak. I spoke about this yesterday. Even the Isak situation is... What is the situation? People, if Fabrizio Romano tells me one more time that Liverpool are readying a bid for Alexander Isak, I may well pull my hair out, because they haven't placed any bids. Big Yas of the PIF of Newcastle United is back in Newcastle, is set to be discussing terms with Isak on what is set to happen next. And I presume what he's saying to Isak is, look, we've had no bids for you. You can't just sit at home on the Xbox and wait and hope that someone pays the money. Let's pretend Liverpool did put a bid in. If it's not the 150 million we want, or look, even 130, 120, whatever it is to just get this show on the road and move on from this situation, if that's what it takes. I think he's broken bridges with the fans. He's burnt bridges with the players. Senior players are reported to not be very happy about what Isak's up to at the minute. I can very much see Bruno as a man who will be seriously peed off, bearing in mind how much he wears his heart on his sleeve and how much he wears the crest. I can understand why the players are unhappy, and that's why Yas is in discussion. But as the reports stand, Liverpool have not placed a bid, and Newcastle essentially need to tell Isak to get his act together. Trying to take a step past that, you talk about the idea of, look, if Isak goes, what are we going to do? And the reports essentially were that SESKO was the man to replace Isak. He was the big deal. He was the 70, 80 million pound player, just 22 years old, who would come in and replace Isak. We still haven't replaced Callum Wilson. That's when you're down the road of a Wizza, or what's also been reported as a Muniz today from Fulham. That situation I don't mind. Well, you could argue that all 3 of them aren't as good as Alexander Isak. But in a world where we're trying to move on with our lives, if Isak went and we got all 3 of them, that is a clear push from Newcastle to try and fix the situation. Well, that does not look like it's happening anymore. Reports had been that both Newcastle and Manchester United were in talks with SESKO. The reports were that SESKO liked Manchester United, liked the fact that obviously they've got a very big name, liked the fact that Newcastle had Champions League, etc., etc., and effectively was 2 teams fighting for the player. They reckon that wages were effectively matched by both. The hope was for Newcastle United that the idea of Champions League would pull the player in. David Ornstein has reported this afternoon that Newcastle have not been able to push the deal over the line, and that the player himself is now pushing for the move to Manchester United. It's the story of the summer. It's just continued to go on and on. Off the back of that, the report is that Newcastle are talking to Muniz. Now, people are going to jump on this one and go, oh my God, how can Muniz be as good as SESKO? No. I don't think that was the situation. I assume that Newcastle had SESKO as the Isak replacement, had Muniz, Wizza as the Wilson replacement / backup situation. But I can tell you this right now, Muniz and Wizza are not enough for me to head into a Champions League season as our strikers. The pair of them, fair enough, Wizza I think scored about 30 goals over the last 2 years. I think Muniz got 10, 11, 12 goals last year. I think the pair of them combined in the last season probably got around what Alexander Isak got. And this is no slant on them. And if the 2 of them want to actually play for our football club, I will back them to the hilt and I will cheer them on in every single game. However, this still rides along what we discussed 5-10 minutes ago, which is this was meant to be a transformative season. And if we are set to lose our best player, the best striker in the world, to be replaced by You know, a Muniz who really has played a lot of games for Fulham, but I would argue hasn't really set the world alight. Still young, 23, 24 years old, could improve at Newcastle. We've been linked with him before in the past, so it's not a new name. I like Wizza still. I think if we can put that over the line at 40 million for someone who wants to be here, these aren't players that I'm turning my nose up at, but these are just players that aren't Alexander Isak. SESKO is not Alexander Isak, but there is a serious project in that player of what he can become. And for any Liverpool fans watching who still think this Isak deal is going to go over the line, the season starts 2 weeks on Saturday. Liverpool haven't placed a bid for Isak, and Newcastle are nowhere near bringing in a replacement for him. I really struggle to see where Newcastle go now, because I think if Isak was wanting to go, Big Yas being back in Newcastle is bad news for Isak. I don't think he's coming in to talk to Isak about how he's going to help him leave. He's back to tell Isak to get his boots on and do some laps on the pitch. If you're not going to go to Singapore, if you're not going to go to South Korea, if you're going to stay at home and watch your teammates get battered by a team of 11 Korean players I've never seen before, then you've got another thing coming. It's created real bad blood with the Isak stuff amongst... You know, if this had happened and Newcastle had bought 4 new strikers, I think there would be like a more of an... You know what, Isak, you've screwed us here, but at least you scored the goal to win us a cup. Thanks very much. We've got some replacements. Because the replacement strategy of Newcastle has been so poor and gone so downhill so quickly, the rest of the players will be like, wait, we are struggling here, and you're not even helping us out. Like, the situation with Isak is quickly turning toxic, and I honestly don't know which way it's going to swing. And then Newcastle suddenly bust out the bank account and pay for a £100 million striker just to get something done, or somehow there's a situation where Big Yas does agree with Isak that you're under contract. You are under contract at our football club. You aren't allowed to just sit at home and not do anything. The rumours are that, so it's said that he's injured. You know, and that's why it's not happening. And if Isak did come back and suddenly start playing again, I think he will have recovered from his injury, and all of a sudden he'll be featured again. If Isak scores 2 goals in the first game of the season, I don't think it'll take too many fans to turn around and go, right, okay, prove yourself, we'll back you, because he's still the best striker going. How Isak plays, if he's slouching around on the pitch, all remains to be seen. But as it stands, Newcastle's lead striker target has turned us down once again this summer. And I don't know about anybody else. The list is running out. Newcastle are running out of time. And Isak's move that he has desperately tried to force this summer, I just, at the minute, at the state of play, cannot see happening. I cannot see Newcastle letting go of Isak going into a Champions League season without any replacement. Asula struggled today. Yeah, there you go. That is the breaking news. Thoughts and comments on Ramsdale coming in for a medical. Thoughts and comments on SESKO deal looking like it's off. Let me know in the comments. Can Newcastle find a replacement for Isak? Do you want Isak to stay? Do you want Isak to go? Let me know. Drop a like on this video if you would still like to see Newcastle come up with something to settle this situation sooner rather than later. Whether that is a contract for Isak, or where is that bridge totally burnt for you, or whether it is bringing in a new player. Drop a like if you're enjoying the update videos, because there wasn't a lot to like on this one. So do us a favour, just drop a like to help it push, and hopefully we'll have some good news very soon. I've seen someone say 30 days to go, 33 days to go of the summer window. We have time, but we're running out. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.